I'm a sucker for a really simple, flat, athletic shoe because I just hate how unstable and how chunky the majority of like running shoes that people use for athletic shoes, like this. So I bought the top 4 most requested athletic performance barefoot shoes to cut them in half, run all our tests on them to really figure out which of these is the most durable, which is the most comfortable, which one of these am I gonna buy, and most importantly, how do these rank on the WPS from clown to duck to double wide surprise to cool? And this video is gonna be pretty fun because what we're gonna do is rank all these in a bunch of different categories, award points, so that we can tally them up at the end and see who really reigns supreme in the athletic barefoot shoe category. So why would somebody want to wear a barefoot style shoe for athletics? Well, the alleged benefits are foot health, so it strengthens your feet. It makes you more stable on your feet by not overcompensating by building up arch support and lots of foam underneath. It also gives you a lot more ground feel so that you know exactly what's underneath your foot, how you can pivot, where to put your power, similar to like rock climbing. Because when I used to rock climb, I really like to have a thin outsole so I can feel exactly what my foot's doing and where the pressure's put. And people and brands also say it helps with your posture because you're not up on a high heel, which you might notice is the exact same thing those high-heeled boots and arch support shoes say. Better for your posture. So that's why we're doing Arch March following this Barefoot February to really see what's what and who's right, who's wrong. Now let's go over the contenders, starting with the Vivobarefoot first. So the style is a Primus Trail. They weigh 10.6 ounces. They retail for $180, the most expensive in the lineup. What about the claimed barefoot attributes, starting with the wide toe box? Why is that important? Because your foot is not shaped like a regular shoe. It's more shaped like your foot. And so they make the shoes in this shape to make them more comfortable and let your toes spread out. So does the Vivobarefoot have this? Yes. What about the zero drop, meaning that your heel and the ball of your foot are the same level regardless of what's underneath of it? Yes, they claim that it is a zero drop shoe. And how about the ground feel? Basically, can you feel what you're stepping on? Yes, they claim that. So all those together, does it make it a barefoot shoe? You gotta have all 3 to be considered barefoot. Yes, it does. So this is a barefoot shoe. Next is the Lems. So this is the Primal 2. They weigh 6.9 ounces. They retail for $110, making them the cheapest in the lineup, and they're made in China. And what about the claimed barefoot attributes? So wide toe box, yes, clearly the widest of the group. Zero drop, yes. Ground feel, yes. So making it a barefoot, yes. Next to the Skora. So this is the Phase. They weigh 6.4 ounces, the lightest of the lineup. They retail for $135 and they're made in China. And the claimed barefoot attributes, wide toe box, yes, but they're not nearly as wide as you might think. They're pretty deceptive on how wide they actually are, but they're not as wide as the rest of these shoes. Zero drop, no, because it's got a 5mm drop. Ground feel, yes. So since it doesn't have all 3, is this a barefoot shoe? No, not technically, but it's pretty close. If you're like me, you should be doing skincare, but you don't because you're lazy and it's complicated. You don't know what to buy, what combinations of things to use. And that's why I'm excited to have Tiege Hanley as a sponsor of today's video because they've helped me start and maintain my skincare routine because of how simple and uncomplicated they make the process. And honestly, it's one of the best skincare systems for guys like you and me. And I recommend starting at the level 1, which comes with just all the basics you need to start. It's not overcomplicated, just very basic. It comes with a daily wash to get rid of all the dirt and grime on your skin, a 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of all those built up dead skin cells, especially under the beard and stubble. An AM moisturizer with SPF 20 to prevent your face looking like 100 years old with all the sun damage that you accumulate over your life, and a PM moisturizer to help keep your skin hydrated and healthy throughout the entire night. So you wake up just looking beautiful. And my favorite part about Tiege Hanley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you exactly how to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. And it's very basic, and that's really all I wanted. Just tell me how to take care of my skin. I don't want to think about it. Just give it to me and tell me what to do. And that's exactly what Tiege Hanley does. And it's not just me that enjoys the simplicity and the streamlined process of Tiege Hanley. They have over 5,000 5-star reviews on their website from satisfied customers from around the world. And because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click the first link in my description and you'll get 30% off your first box plus a free gift. So don't miss out on this amazing deal. Click that link and get started today. Then finally to the Zeros. So this is the HFS. They weigh 7.5 ounces. They retail for $119 and they're also made in China. And what about the claimed barefoot attributes? Wide toe box, yes. Zero drop, yes. Ground feel, yes. barefoot shoe, question mark? Yes. And there's really three things that I want to look at when I'm considering an athletic shoe for performance. I want to know how durable is it, how comfortable is it, and am I going to look good, am I going to feel good on how I look in the shoe? So starting with the durability first, we wanted to rank the upper durability, and to give you a general ranking, I rank leather as the most durable, then a knit upper, and then mesh is usually the least durable. And the trade-offs of that ranking scale is the more durable it is, the less breathable it is. All these shoes use a different material as an overlay, which is pretty common in athletic shoes to build them up and give them a little bit more durability. And those materials, I consider leather the most durable as an overlay, then fake leather, and then TPU. So how do these shoes rank in upper durability? Well, starting at least durable, working our way up to most durable. The zeros are mesh and TPU, and the mesh is really thin, so last place, so 1 point for zero. Next, I would put the Skoras because they're mesh and TPU overlay as well, but I think they're a little bit more durable than the zeros, so 2 points. Then I would put the Lems because they're mesh and a fake leather, so 3 points for Lems, and the most durable is this knit upper because it has TPU overlays, and the TPU overlays are really thick and they're placed in all the right spots, so I would consider this the most durable for 4 points. And that's not the only important part of a shoe when it comes to the durability, especially for the upper, because if you ever owned a pair of shoes that you've worn out, the heel always wears out, at least for me, first before anything else. And for whatever reason, shoe companies just don't reinforce the heel. It's crazy to me that they don't put anything in there. And the way that I rank counter cover material durability is leather first, then fake leather, then TPU, then knit, and then mesh. And the trade-offs are, there's no trade-offs, because if your heel's more durable, that's that. And I can't think of any trade-offs. So what is the least durable heel material? Zeros have mesh, so 1 point for zeros. And then next to the Skoras, which have a really thin fake suede leather, then to the Lems that have a thicker fake suede, making the most durable heel counter the Vivos because it has a fake leather and it has that heel strap that wraps all the way down through there, giving you just another extra layer of protection. So 4 points for Vivo. Now that we've covered the upper, let's go through the outsoles. So the way I rank outsole durability when it comes to materials is rubber is the most durable for this lineup, and then air injected rubber, or basically a foam rubber. The trade-offs are rubber is durable but really hard, and blown rubber is softer but not quite as durable. So how do they rank from least durable outsoles to most durable? Well, the Lems have a blown rubber outsole, so it's really soft and squishy, and it's 9 millimeters thick, but it's not gonna last nearly as long as a rubber outsole. And then we go to the Skoras, which have true rubber outsole bits, but there's also blown rubber throughout the entire sole, so just barely above the Lems with those little high wear rubber spots. Then I would put the Zeros next because it's a full rubber outsole, but it is really thin because it's only a 5 millimeter outsole. And in first place, the Vivos, because they have a rubber outsole that is 7 millimeters thick, making them the most durable outsole. But keep in mind, they might be a little bit harder, and it makes the thicker the outsole is, the less flexible they are. And we also ran the puncture test on the outsole because I don't know what you're gonna be doing in these athletically, and you might wanna know how much protection you have underneath your foot. So starting at worst puncture resistance is the Zeros with 1 point at 39 pounds to puncture through. Not a whole lot of puncture resistance in these. Then the Lems took 55 points, so 2 points for Lems. Then the Skoras at 69 pounds, so 3 points for Skora. And then once again, the Vivos at the top with a pretty good score at 132 pounds of puncture resistance. So 4 points for Gryffindor again. And then we basically ran the same style of test on the eyelets, and the worst performance was the Zeros, then the Skoras, then the Vivos, and the Lems taking the #1 spot, finally taking Vivo off the top spot for at least one of the tests. And now that we know the durability of the uppers and the outsoles, let's rank the way that the upper is attached to the outsole, also known as the construction. And the way that I rank construction durability is cemented cup soles with a sidewall stitch, giving you the trifecta of durability, is the most durable for this style of shoe. Then cemented cup soles, and then just cemented. And the trade-offs are the more durable and the more cemented cup sole stitching, the more labor is involved, making the shoes more expensive. So construction-wise, which is the least durable? Well, I would go with the Zeros with 1 point because it's just a cemented sole and it's barely a cup sole. It's just like a quarter of an inch of a cup sole. Then the Skoras with a very similar thing where you've got the cup sole, no stitching, it's just cemented on, but it does sneak up the sidewall just a little bit more than the Zeros. Then above that, put the Lems because it's a little bit higher cup sole and it's just cemented as well. And finally the Vivos, once again, higher cup sole and cemented. So Vivo kind of killing it with the durability. And now that we know how durable they are, let's go over the comfort, because it doesn't matter how durable something is if you never want to wear it because of how painful it is underfoot, especially in this barefoot minimalist world where people like them really flat, but I like comfort. I like a little squish underfoot. So for me, comfort matters in this category. So the way that I rank comfort of materials throughout the sole construction, including the insole, midsole, and outsole, foam's gonna be the most comfortable, then leather, then rubber, and the trade-offs are the more thickness you have, the less barefoot it is, but the more comfortable it is. So starting with the least comfortable, I would consider the Xeros, because you only have 10 millimeters separating you from the ground, 3 millimeters of insole, 2 millimeters of lasting board, and 5 millimeters of outsole. Next, I would consider the Vivos at 11 millimeters total separating you from the ground, 3 millimeters of an insole, 1 millimeter of a lasting board, and 7 thick millimeters of a rubber outsole. Then between the top two, I would probably put the Skoras as second to most comfortable because you have 18 millimeters separating you from the ground, 6 millimeter insole, 2 millimeter lasting board, and 10 millimeter outsole. And then the Lems. This is the thing I really like about Lems and why we've covered the boulder boots several times and why I wear them so often, because they're just comfort first and foremost, because you have 15 millimeters total separating you from the ground, 4 millimeter insole, 2 millimeter lasting board, and 9 millimeters of soft, squishy, blown rubber on the outsole, making these really comfortable. And another really important thing about the barefoot world is how anatomical is the toe box, how wide is it? So starting with the most narrow, going to the widest, Skoras are the most narrow, followed by the Vivos, then the Xeros, and the widest are the Lems. And keep in mind, there's really only like a 1/4 inch difference between the Lems and the Skoras, because even though these look a little bit more narrow, they're really not that narrow. It's part of the construction and how the upper almost goes over the side of the shoe and tucks under before the outsole is attached, versus a lot of these shoes, they just big, wide, chunky, it goes all the way out, lots of materials. And so for how narrow these look, they're surprisingly wide. Finally, let's go over what is the most flexible. So we did a couple different, very scientific tests to see how easy they are to roll up the toe, and then also a heel to toe test to see what's what. So starting at least flexible, the Vivos. Finally taking the last spot, the Vivos. Not very flexible because of how thick that outsole is. The next least flexible is the Lems, because there's just a lot of material in there making them not as flexible. Second most flexible are the Skoras. I think just the fact that it has a little bit more bulk in the midsole and heel area makes them a little bit less flexible. And the Xeros finally taking the #1 spot. Congrats, Xero, you're the most flexible, mostly because they are the cheapest made, cheapest upper, and cheapest sole construction. But some people really want a flexible barefoot shoe, and this is the thinnest and the most flexible. So now let's cut these in half and see what's what, see what's on the inside, and tally up all the scores and see who wins the barefoot athletic performance shoe showdown. Okay, we got them all chopped in half, so let's see what's inside, starting with the Vivos. So now, do you see kind of what I mean with the difference between a really thick running shoe compared to a barefoot shoe? Vastly different, and you can see why someone would want a barefoot shoe for that feel underfoot and all the other things we talked about, but more importantly, let's tally the scores. So durability, there's 60 points available, tallied up everything from the previous part of the video. So coming in at last place with the durability, Xeros with 8 points. Then 13 points for the Skoras. Then out of the final two, Lems come in at 16 points, and #1, no surprise if we're being honest, the most durable is the Vivos at 23 points. But durability is not everything, because comfort almost matters as much, if not more. And so we tallied up all the scores and gave it a 2 times multiplier, because that's how much I value comfort. I don't care if it's durable if I can't actually wear it. So 60 points available. Vivos in last place with 10. Next is the Skoras with 14. Xeros above that with 16, making the winners with 20 points. the Lems. Pretty undefeated in comfort because of that really thick outsole and everything we've talked about, because they really are ridiculously comfortable. And now to the moment you've all been waiting for, the WPS scale from clown to duck, double wide surprise to cool. And keep in mind, I'm putting this through the lens of like kind of a workout shoe, because they're not gonna be quite as good looking as like a casual shoe. With 30 points available, 1 being the clownest of clowns, 10 being the coolest of cool. The ugliest, we'll give them 5 points, and the duck category, the Lems. They're not the most attractive. I don't love the paneling in this. We just bought the ugliest color, so take it with a grain of salt. And then above that, I would put the Xeros at the next spot as a double wide surprise with 7 points, because it is kind of this unique retro looking running shoe, but it's a bit puffy and it doesn't look as good as I'd like it to on my feet. And then second best looking, I would put the Skoras. They're really different looking, the way that the laces work and the way it kind of hides how wide it is, and it's just a really odd looking shoe. But I like it. It kind of looks like a pair of cleats or running shoes, like a sprinting shoe that you can wear to the gym and have a fair amount of squish underfoot compared to these other shoes. And the other colorways are a little bit more attractive than this one in my opinion, but I do kind of like them. So 7 points, no, actually give them 8 points. 8 points for Skora, and I'll give them the cool category. And then at the number 1 spot, the coolest, awarding 10 points, I give it to the Vivos, because I think these are really cool looking. And even outside of working out environment or athletic environment, I think they're a nice looking shoe. The paneling is really interesting. The laces are cool. The outsole has those little speckles in there looking like a birthday cake. And I've seen people wearing these at the gym and they do look kind of cool. So 10 points for Gryffindor again. So if we total up all the results for the mostly subjective what Weston would wear and what he values for an athletic shoe that's a barefoot shoe, the last spot with 31 points, the Xeros. Did not perform well in this video, unfortunately for them. The number 3 spot with 36 points, the Skoras. And then the number 2 spot with 42 points, the Lems, making the number 1 spot with 47 points and my choice, the Vivos. So not a whole lot of surprise there, but that doesn't mean it's the best shoe, because if I were to give out some extra awards in the award ceremony, what is the most comfortable one? The Lems. What is the best budget one? Also the Lems. What about the best first athletic shoe to get into the barefoot category? I would probably choose the Skoras. They don't look quite as wild. They have a 5mm drop, a little bit more squish underfoot. It's an easy way to break into the market. And then the final award to give out is, which shoe am I actually gonna buy? Well, I actually bought a pair of the Skoras and the Vivos because I like them both for different reasons and I like the way they look. So let me know what you guys think. And if you want a dedicated video on one of these shoes, let me know, because if there's enough demand, I'd love to really get into every single small detail of all these. But if there's one that you guys really want to see, let me know. And support this video, because these are really expensive videos to do. When we do like 4 or 5 videos in a single video, it's like taking the cost of 5 videos and compressing it into one. With a very obscure type of shoe, it's tough to make our money back. So if you could subscribe, it would make a huge difference, because that's the only thing like the sponsors look at. So it's just one little free click. It helps us out and it helps us afford to make these videos that help you decide on what to spend your hard-earned money on. So thank you guys for everything. See ya.